we're in the middle of the same discussion the last few days we're dealing with halacha, where the rabbis essentially, and I don't mean in any disrespectful way, the rabbis essentially reading the mind of people in certain situations. The rabbis basically taught us under certain situations where a wife sees her husband distributing the estate and doesn't protest for various reasons, whether it's in terms of stature or emotion. The rabbis say that she's happy with it, and she forgoes her ability to collect her ksuba from those possessions that were given away. Even though theoretically she should get it, but okay, but we say because of the trade-off of things that she gets, whether it's in stature or emotionally, that she's willing to let it go. Yeah. So now we're in a continuing situation. Okay, so we are. The bottom. We're in the bottom of Kuf Lamed Beis. Ahud Amar Lahu. Okay, a certain person. Okay, he was just about to die. The Amar Lahu Tilta Lebras. He says, I'm giving 1/3 of my estate to one daughter, and 1/3 of my estate to another daughter. And 1/3 I'm giving to my wife. Okay, so therefore what? So when we're saying simply what, the simple halacha should be, again, like we learned before, that the assumption is that since she received herself property for the pleasure of receiving that gift, she's willing to let go of her lien on the properties that he gave to the daughter. But remember, that doesn't mean that if the husband gets future properties that she won't have a lien. Just the ones that he gave away, she relinquished her lien on that property. So now look what happened. So he said, I'm giving 1/3 to one daughter, 1/3 to another daughter, 1/3 to my wife. And then what happened was, Shchiva Chadavi Bante, then one of her daughters died before the father died. Now, what's the halacha? Before the father died. Yeah, so what's the halacha? But you know that when children pass away, if they don't have children, who does it go to? It goes to the father. So what happened was one of the daughters died, and her inheritance really goes back to the husband, okay? Sovelar Papi Lememar, and then now, to the father. The Sovra Papi Lememar Lo Shakla El Tilto. So now let's say when that guy dies. So Papi thought, no, the wife, what? He gave her 1/3. That's 1/3 she was mochel, and it's goodbye, Charlie. And she can't collect her ksuva from the property of the daughter that went back to the father.
They don't mention
That's
that
a question.
status of the daughter. They were married, and the daughter died.
That's in case right. These are all cases where there's no so there's no one to inherit. That's the point. So it goes back to the father. But that's correct. That's correct what you said. So Amalei Rav Kahana. So Rav Kahana said, "Ilu hadar kani milo shoki." So what are you talking about? He says, "How can you say that that's the halacha? She can't collect from the estate that went back to her husband. Of course she can. Why?" He says, let's say he bought more property. Would she collect from that? Yes, like I told you before. In all these cases where we say that the woman relinquished her right to the lien, it was only in the part that was given away. Obviously, for the rest of his life, as long as the husband acquires stuff, everything is subject to the lien of the ksuba. So look, had he bought other property, she would have had a right to collect it. So therefore, what? Okay, behaving the key to other shakla. Since what? If he would have bought something else, she would have collected hashanami shakla. This is no different. When the father reacquired from the daughter that died the property that he gave her, it's like he bought new property, and therefore he gets it.
That was Rab Papa's opinion that he requires it. Is that the din that he?
No, the din is that he requires any child who has
I'm talking about the shchibna ra when he requires it.
Yeah.
That's the law that he requires it after he recovers.
He requires it, period. As long as he's alive, he inherits it. And the truth is, even if he's dead, he inherits it. But that's not the point. Any child who dies without heirs below them, their possessions go to the father.
Okay.
That's always the rule. No, it's the simple way. I told you I brought this from the Meiri, I think 2 weeks ago. It's an easy way to understand. Really, think of everything as always coming from fathers to children. So when you first learn the halacha, it sounds strange. Here, if the kids don't have heirs, it goes to the father. Then if there's no father, it goes to their siblings. It goes to their siblings. No, sibling goes to the grandfather. The grandfather goes to the uncles of the father. Wait a second, what is it? It's always jumping back up to the father and going to his children. Why does it go? Why does it if a person has no children to inherit? Why, if their father is not alive, does it go to their siblings? Because it really did go to their father in the grave, and the father gave it to his kids, which is the deceased siblings. And when there's none there, so why does it go to the uncles? Why does it go to the brothers of the father? Because it really went to the grandfather, went down to them. Yeah. So it's always the same thing. It's always being kicked. If there's no way to go down, it gets kicked up to the next father and goes down to his kids. That's the way to remember it. Okay. Ahu the Palgino and Nichse Itasei Livnei. Of a certain person, he divided his properties. Okay, he was on the way to die, and he divided his property between his wife and his sons. Okay, now again, okay, but it only now so usually that means that we said if she's quiet, then she accepted, she removed the lien, she forgives the lien on the property that he gave to the kids. Shir chadikla, but he left over one date palm that he didn't say who it belongs to. So we would have thought after, if it comes to collecting the suba, she has no right. She'll never collect the suba to more than the value of the one date palm. Why? Because look, property he gave her, that he gave her, and on the pleasure of receiving that property, she forgave the lien on the property that he gave to the kids. So what's left? There's only one day palm. So she gets either the money than the day palm, or she's finished. She can't get it.
But that's theirs. Really.
Late, but it wasn't. But she never forgave the lien. Amar lei Rabbi Yemer, so she can collect from it. She can always collect from her boys. Amar lei Rabbi Yemer, Rabbi says 1 second. He says, "What are you talking about?" He says, If you're telling me that she can't collect from the boys' land, that she also can't collect what? She can't collect from the tree. Okay, why? Because once she gave up her rights to the land, she also gave her rights to the tree. Ella, but said, "What's the reason? What's the reason why you think what that she didn't give up her rights on the tree?" Okay, the tree. Because since she saw that he didn't give anything and he left her place to collect from, okay, so she thought she's going to collect it. And he said, once that's true, since she still had hopes to collect the ksuba, maybe the Nasal Dikla, the same way that she was relying on the day palm to collect, she never said, look, I'm not going to be able to collect. She thought she was going to collect. She also really was relying on all the possessions. And even though in general, when she's silent, when the husband divides before he dies, we say that she forgave it. Here, since she had hope to receive it, we don't interpret her silence as a true forgiving of her lien. Let's say a guy's dying and he writes everything, all of his possessions, to somebody else. But listen to this. But he didn't make it clear whether he's saying as a Yerusha, as an inheritance, or as a gift. Now remember, gifts are the easiest things to give over. There's no problem. Yerushas have laws. Inheritance has laws. Even according to the opinion that you can manipulate a Yerusha, there's a point where you can't. Everyone agrees there's a limit to how much you can manipulate inheritance. God said the laws of inheritance are such and such. One opinion is you can't manipulate it at all. We said one opinion is that you can manipulate, but even there's a limit. By a gift, there's no limit. Do what you want. You want to give a gift, give a gift. He's giving it away. Okay, now. So he wrote everything that he owned to somebody else, but he didn't make it clear whether he was giving it as an inheritance or as a gift. Rowing, so we have to see. We look at that person. Let's say this person, he wrote everything to one person. So let's say it was one of the sons amongst other sons. Like that, okay. Okay, then we follow Rabbi Yochanan Broka, and he gets them as a Yerusha. Okay, being love, but if not. Okay, if the person is not fit to receive it according to the law of Rabbi Yochanan Broka, the person takes it as a gift. And in 2 minutes, we're going to see what the difference is between receiving something as a gift and receiving it as inheritance. Yeah.
How can he receive it as inheritance if he's not the inheritor?
No, that's what we said. So you look at what we just read. It said if the person is fit as to be an inheritor,
he could be fit to be an inheritor. But right. Not the inheritor.
It doesn't. Oh, so 1 second. So he said, here, you're right, but let's just remember what we learned. According to Yochanan ben Broka, if a man has 2 sons, both of whom are fit to inherit, But
He can give it all to
he
one,
can give it all to one, according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka.
only according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka.
Exactly, and that's what we said over here. This, according to Yochanan ben Broka, he's allowed to give it to one son. So if the person he gave everything to was one of two sons, for example, then he gets it, and he gets it he gets it
As an inheritance.
as the laws of inheritance. We'll see in a minute why it makes a difference. And if not, if he's not fit, even according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, he gets it as a gift, and he'll inherit. He'll receive it under the laws of a gift. Yeah.
We learned earlier, but the portion that's cut out for the before, and he can or can I thought we learned he cannot.
Yeah.
So that would be a
Yeah.
nafka.
Yes. But that's not what the Gemara is going to say. You're going to see in a minute.
But that's still
Yeah. Amalei Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman said to Rav Huna, he says, listen, you're not speaking in an honest fashion. He says, Gana Gnubi Lamalach, why are you speaking so sneakily? Why are you being so sneaky? We just said a minute ago, we understood what he said as what? That he's posketing like Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. No, like Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. But he presented it as if he's not taking sides. This is the law. 1 second, he says, what are you being so sneaky? You're posketing according to Yochanan ben Broka, and you're not owning up to it. If you hold like Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, which apparently you do, then say halacha Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Say the halacha follows Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. He said, because you're teaching Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka who does it. It only works according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Why don't you just be honest and say, what are you afraid? You're afraid to say who you're holding like? He says, Dilma ki halka marta. So then he says, listen, he says, you know what? Maybe this is what you're really saying. He says, it must be, you're not trying to tell me that Allah is like Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, maybe you mean like this case. There was a certain guy that was on the way to dying, and he said to him, and they said to him, the people surrounding him, they said, who should your possessions go to? Dilma Laplanya, perhaps you want to give it to Mr. X, okay? But Amarlu Ella Laman, he said, no, who else? And he said, you're right, who else? Said, he's dying. He said, who else? He said, how much patience does he have? He's on the way out. He says, who else? What do you think? Well, duh. Of course it's to that guy. Well, he says, okay, okay. And that so he says, who else? Okay. And it's like that's like a person saying my possessions belong to this guy. And he says, you, the rabbi, he says, you, Rav Huna, told us about that case. The following, you said, if that's somebody who he said, who else is fit to be an heir, then he gets what we gave him as a Yerusha. And if not, he gets it because of a gift. Okay, and now it's not a case of manipulating it. Okay. Amarle, he said yes. I says yes. That's what I was saying. I wasn't coming to side with Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka or not. I'm saying when it was a toss-up, when it was a toss-up, you'll see either it's a Yerusha or not. Now, the Gemara says the Mayachasa. What is the difference in halacha? What's the practical difference? If I gave somebody something, what if he gets it as a gift or gets it legally as an inheritance? The money's his or the land is his. What's the difference? So he says, Savar of Ada Ba'aba Kamei de Rava. So Rav Ada Rava said in front of Rava, he said, he says, look, I'll tell you what's the difference between a gift and the Yerusha. Shim Roy Yarsho. If this person is fit to inherit it, says then the widow of the deceased still has a right to be supported from the estate. Okay, because that's the halacha that we know that every widow is supported from the estate that's inherited by the orphans, by the inheritors. Yep. The imlav, but if not, if it's not an inheritance, if the person received this as a gift, then the widow has no claim. That's a gift, and it's goodbye, Charlie. So it makes a very big nafkamina. Okay.
She can reclaim her ketsuba from that property.
It will depend, right? If she had a prior lien and there's no other properties, yes. So now, so therefore, what? No, that a woman is not supported from gifts that she's not supported from gifts that her husband gave away while he was alive. Amalei Rava Migra Gora. He says, 1 second. He says, what? He says, 1 second. I said, so is she gonna? It's so bad. What are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense. You think that's less a gift? What are you talking about? What you think makes no sense. You're gonna tell me that what he gave away as a gift she can't be supported by? He says it's not common sense. Think about it for a second. He says, Hashta b'Yerusha the Oraisa. an inheritance that the deceased gave away, the transfer of property was a Torah transfer. It was ratified by the Torah. On Martha, you said what she's allowed to be supported by that inheritance that the Torah ratified, was given from the father to the kids, and she still has rights. It's not hers, it's theirs, and she has a right to it. He says, "B'matana," when it comes to a gift, you remember when a gift that's given away when a man is dying, midrabanan, it's completely rabbinic. You can't give away things when you die. It doesn't work. The whole thing doesn't work. He's not there. There's nobody to give it. It's not his. Or whatever. There's the argument why it doesn't work. You can't give things away when you're dead. It doesn't work. He says, and the whole law that a guy who's dying says, look, just give it to him. It's rabbinic. He said, listen, don't drive the guy nuts. As far as we're concerned, he gave it. It's over. It's done. The rabbis ratified it. Midrabanan lo kol shekain. When it's barely, it didn't really transfer. Okay, it's only transfers rabbinically. Lo kol shekain, all the more so she should be supported. Alama Rabbi says, no, I have to give you a different difference. That's not true what you're saying. Here's the difference between whether the person received it as a gift or as an inheritance. Okay, he said the following. The divrei Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, for all those who hold like Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, okay, that what? That as long as a person can manipulate his inheritance, give more to one, etc., give everything to one, as long as what it's a son among the sons, like we said, there are 2 sons or 3 sons, they can give everything to one son. You can manipulate as long as the person you're giving it to is what? You can adjust God's laws of inheritance as long as you're giving it to somebody who is supposed to inherit it. One son among the other sons, one daughter among the other daughters.
But you have to give Pishnayim, that always, right?
Yeah, that's a different story. Yeah, but we're talking about the inheritance, right? Okay. He says, let's say the guy said, he said, this is the difference. A guy said, remember, we already learned this one. We're just going to repeat it simply because it's going to come up 5 times in 1 second. Here, there's a very important law. Yerusha ein lo hefsek. We're going to say it explicitly later. And matana yesh lo hefsek. Gifts can be interrupted. Inheritances can't be interrupted. If a person says, look, this gift is for you, then for him, and then for the third guy, it goes to him, to number 1. When he dies, the gift transfers to number 2. When he dies, the gift transfers to number 3. But if a person says, this is an inheritance to you, then to number 2, then to number 3, it never goes away from number 1. Number 1 dies, it goes to his heirs. You can't interrupt an inheritance. You can interrupt gifts, do what you want, but you can't interrupt an inheritance. So now, what's our problem? We have to know whether something was an inheritance or a gift because of the following. A guy says to his friend. He says to his friend, my estate goes to you, or my possession go to you, and after you to Mr. Number 2. We learned if the first guy was fit to inherit, the second guy's never going to get anything. Why? I told you, because there's no such thing. You can't stop an inheritance. If I give somebody as inheritance, I can never stop it and give it transfer to somebody else. It's now stuck in the inheritance loop, and his heirs are going to get it. You can't stop it. He says, okay, but he has nothing. Because with the language of my possessions to you is not a language of a gift. It's a language of what? It's a language of inheritance, and therefore it doesn't go. But Yerusha ain't la'hafsek, and we have the rule that what Yerusha, an inheritance, can't be interrupted, and therefore what? The second guy cannot uproot the inheritance once it went to the first guy, and it doesn't matter. The first guy dies; it goes to his inheritors, and not the guy number 2. And therefore, 1 second, and therefore here's the whole point. He says, well, what was we should understand. So in the case above, what was the whole case that we said the guy said, look, should we give it to Mr. X? He said, who else should you give it to? So now we had to decide whether it's a gift or it's an inheritance. So, well, if he's fit to inherit it, it's an inheritance. If not, it's a gift. He says like this, what's going to be the difference? Okay. So he said, look, if not him, who else? If the first guy that they talked about, he said, if not him, who else? But he said, it's the case that's slightly different. They said, should we give it to George? He said, who else? He says, and after him, give it to John. Now, what's the point? Okay, but now it's the same case, but one added. They said, should we give it to George? He said, who else? Of course. He said, who else should I give it to? He says, and after him to John. Now, now the point is like this. If the first guy was in line, was actual inheritor, the first guy, Okay, so even though he said what, even though he said after him to the second guy, it doesn't go to the second guy because it was an inheritance. Okay, because we said the language was inheritance. But if the first guy is not fit to inherit, okay, so then what? Then we have to say. Then we're forced to say what it's a gift. And if he said to him and after it to the other guy, then when the first guy dies, it doesn't go to the first guy's inheritors. It goes to the second
So I
guy.
have two
So
questions.
one second. But so let's just understand. Okay, still 1 second. Here, so what's the point? The point is what? Let's learn what's final the sugya. So what was it that Rav Huna was coming? What Rav Huna was coming to teach me? Was coming to teach me that what that you have to see, you have to know in a given case where it's a toss up. You can't tell whether it's a gift or an inheritance, and you have to investigate who guy number one was, and if guy number one was fit to inherit, then it's an inheritance. And when the guy said it goes to a number two afterwards, it doesn't. When guy number one, he said who else was not fit to inherit, and he said who else, and after him to number two, then it gives those number two, and this is what Rav Huna was teaching us, and Rav Huna was teaching us, and not necessarily involved in the halacha of Rav Yochanan ben Broka.
So according
Yeah.
to Rav Huna,
Yeah.
cannot give a gift to a potential heir.
No, we didn't say that. You could.
Well, he's a
No, you could. Of course you could. The only thing, of course you can.
If you use the word matzah.
Yeah, you have to make it clear. The only thing is when the language is not clear, so we'll have to have a toss up. You know what took place.
Okay,
That's all. Yeah.
If can I give a gift to my grandson, say?
You can give a gift to anybody you
Now,
want.
Conditional, but that in his lifetime, my son enjoys.
Yeah. That we had earlier. You'll see, we had earlier. That's called me'achshav lachamisa. That's where a person gives away. A person can give away, for example, can give the use of product during the lifetime.
Person,
Yeah.
And then the parent.
Later. Yeah. That's all possible. Okay. Amar le Rav Nachman. Rav said the following. He says, 1 second. So now, what was the point? So now we're going to challenge. Let's summarize what we just said. We just said, listen, if there's a case where it's clear that the first guy was an inheritor, even though the bequeather said to him and then to him, I'm sorry, you can't interrupt an inheritance. Amalei Rabbi Rav Nachman said, what do you mean? But he did. That's what he did. That's what he wanted to do. He says, that's what he did do. He said to him back, he says, who sabar, he says, you're making a mistake. Who sabar yesh lahafsek. He thought that you can interrupt an inheritance. Rahman Amar ain't lahafsek, but the Torah said that there's no interruption to an inheritance. Okay, because why? Because like we said, because everyone agrees to the basic principle. Well, we're saying over here, we're saying what, and a person has no right to what, to make conditions on what the Torah said. Except we can argue monetary case, but you can't make conditions. A certain guy said to his friend, he said, here, my stake goes to you, and after you to Mr. Number Two. It was exactly the case we learned. The first guy was fit to be an inheritor. Okay, Rishon. Okay, Rishon. Okay, the first guy died, who he gave it to. The second guy says, listen, I want it. Rav Elish, okay, Kamei, the Rav Elish in front of Rava argued the Maimar to say Hasheni Nami Shakal. He said, what? He should get the stuff. The second guy should get it. That's what the bequeather said, first to Mr. A and then to Mr. B. Amalei, so Rava said to Rav Elish, she says, Daine Chatzatzta. He says, ignorant judges judge that way. Judges, what are Daine Chatzatzta? Judges who don't know the law, they split everything. Since they don't know the proper law, every monetary case says, okay, you get 50, you get 50. They split it. They're ignorant. He says, this what you just did was the way an ignorant judgment paskin. That you can't. What do you mean? How's it go for the first guy? The first guy got it. How's the thing? I get it. Isn't that we learned before? What? That we learned that if the first guy is fit to inherit in such a case, what we said then it's inheritance and it can't be interrupted. It doesn't go to guy number two. So what happened? Rav Elish was very embarrassed. He made a mistake, and he was very embarrassed. Why? Because not only was it a mistake, but he also thought Rav Elish was embarrassed, and he thought Rav was going to think that all of his rulings were ignorant. he caught him in a mistake, and he's gonna think, "Oh my God!" He's gonna think everything I've done, everything I ever did was a mistake. So listen to this. So Rava wanted to reassure Rabbi Elish that he didn't think badly of him. Listen to this. And Kriyaleh, he said to him, no, he says, Ani Hashem, the pasuk says, I'm Hashem, and immediately I'm going to save him. You know, in its time, immediately, quickly, in its time, he says, in the nick of time, I'm going to save him. He said, no, I know that's not the case. You're a righteous man, and your rulings are good rulings. In this case, where you almost made a mistake, even though Hashem didn't let. He sent me here to correct it, to catch you on the spot. It's the other way. You're a good judge. You said Hashem protected you. In this case, also, even here, you didn't make a mistake. Yeah. Hashem took care of you. Okay, now we're going to be back in the same. We're going to be more cases where we're getting to, even though we, in typical Gemara fashion, you understand, we're getting to the heart of the matter after we've been talking about it for days about actually who's supposed to be manipulating the Risha. Are you supposed to take your inheritance away from one person to another? And stay tuned. We're not going to finish today. But look, the Mishnah says, if a person writes or takes all of his possessions and gives them to other people, not the people who are supposed to get it, and he abandoned his own children, and he didn't give them any inheritance. He disinherited his children. What he did. Okay, it works legally. It works, and it works. But the rabbis are not. The spirit of the rabbis is not happy with him. They don't like it. They don't want. They're angry at him. They're unhappy with him because he is uprooting God's Yerusha. There's a reason God wants the Yerusha to go the way it goes, and he doesn't want people to uproot it. And he says, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer. Rabbi Shimon says, he says, listen. He says, if the children don't behave properly, they're misbehaving. Then the person who uprooted the inheritance from those children who misbehave or who behave improperly, he is remembered for good. He's fine. He did the right thing. Now,
question: what is the difference? It could have said kashera. What is the difference if it says kashera or kashura? Or maybe we'll have to think about it.
No, kashura means according to the right way. It's a different word. It's not kasher means fit. Kasher means fit.
Yeah,
kasher means fit. Kashura means properly according to the line of the law.
Kashera also means fit. It's name of kashera.
Yeah, but I still think it's different. I think one is fit, and one is proper according to the law. One's fit, one's according to the law. I think. But okay, let's look. Well, but let's examine. We'll have to examine it. Okay, we have to look right. We'll look. Yeah, exactly. We'll look around a little bit of the language. But you're right. You're right. I see the same form. You're right. Okay. Let's table that. We'll come back to it. I don't know at the moment. Ibailu. Okay, now they have this question. We don't, when you have two sayings in a Mishnah, it's not always clear that the second is a disagreement with the first. It could be the second is merely clarifying or adding to the first. So maybe what is it that there's an argument that the rabbis believe, or the Tanakama believes what? It's never correct to disinherit a kid, no matter what. And Rabbi Shimon says, no, it's correct when the kid's kid's improper, or no, or that everyone agrees to that. Only was Rabbi Shimon who clarified the point. So the rabbis had a query. Okay, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, are the rabbis arguing with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel? And they said, well, no, even when the kid acts improperly, as we'll see, you shouldn't uproot it. Why? Because he's maybe from that kid, even if this kid's no good, he's gonna have good kids coming out of him. Okay, or not. You remember what's the famous drasha before Moshe Rabbeinu smites the Mitzri, before he smites the Mitzri, nobody smites anymore. What happened with that word? Anyway,
yeah, but we do have smoked.
Smoked, yeah.
We don't do it.
Yeah. So anyway, but when he smote the Mitzri, when he smites the Mitzri, so remember he looked this way and that way. So what the Chabad does? He looked up and down the generations to see that no convert was going to come out of this Mitzri. Saying that far that he wasn't going to. He wasn't going to take it away. So you see that what? So the rabbi said, listen. So we don't know. Is it that everyone agrees with Rabbi Shimon that what? That with Rabbi Shimon Gamliel that the kid's not proper, you uproot him, or no? They say no, even the kid's not proper. So what? But maybe a proper kid's going to come out. Yeah. What do you know? I can't remember which rabbi it is. It's well known. I can't remember, but he was famous for being a real troublemaker as a kid. He turned to be one of our giants. I know I don't want to make a mistake and quote the wrong name. So the story he was always pulling pranks and misbehaving in cheder. And one day he went above and beyond. He put a goat into the Aron Kodesh, I think, in front of the base medrash. You know, yeah, a goat. And they're in the middle of learning, and there's a big noise, and there's a thing. And finally, you know, they come out, and the goat comes out. That's it. The Rebbe, that's it. The Rebbe takes, you know, drags him to the Rosh Yeshiva. This is it. You know, it's finished. He says, and the Rosh Yeshiva says to him, he says, is there any reason, he says, to defend? They said, you don't deserve to be thrown out. You know, they don't deserve to be thrown out. And he said, I can't defend myself. He said, but
What?
He said, I can't defend myself. He says, there's no way I don't deserve to be thrown out. But all the people that are going to come from me, they don't deserve that I should be thrown out. He said, and they kept him. He became a God of Israel. He said, the ones that come from me, they don't deserve it. They don't deserve it.
Maybe that's why it says Keshura instead of Keshera, because of what you just said.
Yeah. I mean, because of the lineup. Yeah. Okay. Good. Let's discuss. Hey, good point. Anyway, but that's, you have to know. You don't know. You don't know. You really don't know. You'd be shocked. You really don't know. My father used to tell this guy, you know, people like to bully each other. The guy comes to the guy, he says, look at you. He says, you come from 10 generations of horse thieves. He says, me, you come from 10 generations of horse thieves. Look at you, he says. Guy says, I come from 10 generations of rabbis. Guy says, yeah, look, he says, but listen, he says, I come from 10 generations of horse thieves. I'm a rabbi. He says, you come from 10 generations of rabbis. You're a horse thief. Hey, what is that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
What do you call
Yeah.
it? Pizzeria.
The pizzeria. So okay, so we don't know. Do the rabbis agree that you go in there now, and that even a kid is not acting properly, you disown him, or no? Since you never know who's going to come out, they disagree. Or Shimon says you still disown him, and they say no, you don't do it. We're not going to finish today. Toshma, come, let me try and bring you a proof to see whether are they disagreeing or not. We learned the following incredible story. Yosef ben Yezer, remember, there's still a Beis Hamikdash there. Yosef ben Yezer had a bench lawyer, Noi Kashura. Yosef ben Yezer, he had a kid who didn't behave properly. However, at least the dinar, he had an attic full of money, full of coins. Called Igdasha. He stood up and went and he gave them to the temple to take it away from his kid. Also in the sieve, Baskadio Cleo Danimalko. What happened was, and that kid who he disowned, you know, he took all the money away, he went and he married the daughter of the guy who fashioned the crowns for Yana Yamelech. He married the daughter of a crown maker, a king's crown maker. Yeah. Olida the Bisu, when the daughter, when his wife gave birth, when this son's wife gave birth, he bought her a fish. What else did you give your wife when she comes home from the hospital? What do you think she would? You got a fish. She doesn't want. What do you think? What's a necklace? No, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. He bought her a fish. No. Kara Eshbachwe Magalisa. She opened it up and she found a precious pearl, apparently a very expensive gem. Amrale. So the wife said to him, Lo Tatayan Lamalko the Shokli Menach with the Meklila. Remember, she's the daughter of the king's crown maker. So she knows what's what. She said, listen, don't take this precious stone, to the king, because the king is going to lowball you. He's going to give you a low price. I know the king through my father. Don't take it to the king. He's going to give you the lowest price. Don't go there. Zeal, she says, well, zeal and Gabi Gizbari. Go take it to the treasurer of the Beis Hamikdash. Though they're going to want it for the ephod that has precious stones. They'll want it for there. But low to Shaima, but furthermore, still what? But don't you make the price? Why? Okay, don't make a price. Okay, why? Because you're going to give a low. You yourself are going to undervalue it. And the rule is what? And you know what? Once you say something for the Beis Hamikdash, it's like you gave it already. You won't be able to renege. Don't even a low ball, even a mistake. Don't do it. Don't say anything. Ella l'shaimu inu. Let the treasurers evaluate it, and then we're going to make money. I'm Tai Shamu, so he took it to the treasurer of the Beis Hamikdash. Shamu b'tleisar hayasid dinoi. They valued it at 13 attics full of coins. In other words, 13 times what his father took away from him. 13 attics full of what? Of gold coins. Okay. Amrile, so now listen to this. And they agreed. So they said they owe 13. Amrile said to him, he says, Sheva Iko, we have 7 to pay you with. But she's leka, but with this 6, we haven't collected it yet. We're gonna have to. We don't. We don't have to. We can pay you the 7. We're gonna have to collect the other 6. Amalu, he said to them, Shiva Havuli. He said, look, give me the 7 and Shis and the 6 that you owe me. I am Shemaim. I give them as a donation. So listen to this. Very nice. Look, wait, that's a very nice donation. That's a very nice donation. Amdu, okay, Bakasu, okay. So when they wrote down the annals of the donations of the Beis Hamikdash, they wrote to praise this son. Yosef ben Be'ezer Hichnis Achas. Yosef ben Be'ezer, the father, when he tried to disinherit his kid, he brought into the Beis Hamikdash 1 attic of gold. He says, and his son brought 6 attics. And then look what happened. Look how nice. Look at what happened. Okay, some people say that what they wrote actually wasn't to his credit. He says Yosef ben Yezer Hichnis Achas. He says Yosef ben Ezer brought in 1. But his son took out. He collected 7. That's negative for the son. Okay. Now watch. Now remember, what's the question? We're trying to argue. Do the rabbis disagree with Rabbi Shimon or not? So he says, "Me the amre." Okay. From the fact that they said hichnis, they said, "Listen, he brought in." That's a very positive thing. Mechlal the shop rabba. You see that the son did very well, and therefore you see what we see what. So we see that on the merit of the father giving away the 1, the son brought in 6. So you see what? So it sounds like what that the rabbis
learned his lesson.
The rabbis agree with Rav Shimon Gamliel that it's correct to disinherit the son. It was a very good thing. The father gave what a good deal. He gave away 1, the son brought in 6. He did a very good job. A very wonderful thing happened by virtue of him disowning his son. Mar says, get out of here, Adrabah. What about the other opinion, the other version, the Ka'amri, what we learned according to the second opinion, Hotzi, that it said what to the detriment. Said what? He said the father put in 1 and the son took out 6, took out 7. He emptied out the treasury. Mechlal the lav shapra. We see what? That it wasn't good that he took away the inheritance. So the Gemara says, what? So since we have 2 versions over here, we can't prove the point one way or another. We really still don't know what the rabbis hold. So the Gemara says, my what's the law? What's the law in the end? Hashma, come, I'll bring you a proof. The Amar Leishmul Rabbi Huda, he said, Shimon, I said, yeah, sharp one. He says, Lo tehebi be aburi achsanta. He says, don't be there. Whenever somebody is uprooting an inheritance from the heirs, okay, when the father is taking it away, don't even if he's just changing the ratio, giving more to one and less to the other, he says, don't be there. Even from a bad son to a good son, but Kol Shekain, and even worse, he's going to give it from the daughter from the son to the daughter, which is completely uprooting. He says you shouldn't be there. So for here it sounds like what? At this point it sounds like what? Clearly that the rabbis disagree with Shimon Gamliel and say what? Even when it's a bad child, you shouldn't take away the inheritance. But we're not done yet.
Give it to a daughter.
No. He's just saying you can't uproot the rules of inheritance. Not only when 2 sons are both right to receive, and you're just changing the ratio, and certainly when you're taking away from the one who's supposed to get it and giving it to one who's not supposed to get it. Even when he gives it to both of the boys that are supposed to get it, but just changes the ratio, you shouldn't be involved, and certainly more. Okay, then we're not done yet. We'll continue. We'll have the exciting continuation tomorrow. Suppose.
Okay, the vote today.
Yeah.
Vote early and often.
Early and often. Often as you like.
Okay, in a minute. I want to just make a note.
Hey, both sides.
Thank you.
Rabbi Green, I'd like to tell you the difference between Shera and Shura
Go ahead.
is Shera means he's always
Sorry we didn't have a chance to
appropriate.
hear you.
Shera means do it all the time.
Okay.
Shura means like in a row. Things that are in a row don't always stay in that row. In other words, you have to give a little tolerance to the fact that nobody's
You
perfect.
gave this sermon in Providence.
No,
No, you gave it in Newport.
no, I'm just saying that Shura means you can't
I
expect
hear you.
to be mad at a child because he isn't always.
I'm with you. Let's look. I realize it's real, but let's look around. Let's do a little research.
You know, every time you're talking to him, call him Rabbi more. So I know.
Okay.
What about?
I'll show you something. Come here.
All right. Oh. it's the Scranton versus Old Fort.
You know, so they were all arguing who's gonna win Pennsylvania. I told them to ask you guys.
You know what? We'll know on
Well,
Friday.
not better, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's her father right there.
Oh,
That's
what?
Eve's father.
Rabbi Max, Kuznets.
Was her father?
Oh,
That's her father.
Rabbi
That's
Kuznetsky?
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
Rabbi, what say,
And
Hefty?
her uncle,
Ash, what's it say?
Just celebrated its 50th anniversary of the death of Machshika, that's Rabbi.
Who?
Eve Kaufman's father,
Eve Kaufman's father.
who was the
much. Have a
rabbi in
wonderful day.
Scranton for like
All
55.
right.
That's sharp.
Oh.
That's something.
That's Rabbi Wormwood, or Jesus.
Oh, yeah, I remember Rabbi World. Oh.
I don't, it had to be.
If my candidate doesn't win, I'm moving to Century Village.
No, but you're already here. That's
A tautology.
no, you just, that's a show.